The best thing you can do is just start.
What's the difference between, being on TV and doing your own thing on Instagram?
Like, I try to do a lot of insight investigation on my own channels. So, like, analyzing my insights. Who's my audience? How old are they? There's so much information out there. I think it's most important, especially if you're starting, to
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. On the show today, I have Vittoria Woodill, who is a former CBS 3 TV journalist. She used to be a blogger, and now she is back to the social media realm. She is incredibly inspirational. Let's welcome her.
Hi, everybody. That was so nice. Thanks, Hadas. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming back. We have to say that we tried to do this once before, had some tech difficulties. Now we're back. And since we did that, I have to say, I have seen you everywhere. I guess you got a little inspired.
I did. I mean, you started this podcast, and it's also been something that I've been toying around with. And I just kind of, yeah, I started dabbling. So you've inspired me, and I appreciate that. So I'm glad to be back to like circle back and continue this conversation. We both learned a
We
lot,
have,
I think.
yeah, we have to say that like tech issues happened. We had like this reverberation, weird thing that happened. So, it happens to the best of us. But let's address the main question a lot of people might have. What happened? What happened at Channel 3? People probably think that, you have this amazing, job. You were doing lifestyle stuff. You were talking about food and then you weren't.
Yeah. I mean, I did have a great job at Channel 3. I loved my time there. I loved being sort of like this public servant to the community that was mine. I grew up in Northeast Philly. I lived here. I've never left. And I totally lived out a dream job, but I left. Let's pursue new adventures. Let's break through and see what's next. I'm a mom of two babies now, so I'm not the same person I was, years and years ago when I first started 14 years ago, doing traffic, then doing features, then doing Taste with Tori. So I'm now in this new stage of life and just really excited where I'm at now and seeing what doors it could open, in the future, maybe tomorrow, maybe next year, who knows.
What's the difference between, being on TV and doing your own thing on Instagram?
I think there's no borders or constraints. You are running your own show, you're running your own program. When you're in news, you have news to tell, and that news is important. And those editorial decisions come from professionals. As a reporter, I had editorial decisions that I had to make as well. But now I can choose the content that I want to talk about. I can choose what I relay to my audience. So I think that's like the main difference, but I don't treat my news audience different than my social media audience. I just feel like it's my neighbors, it's my community, and I've always talked to them the same way. And that is trying to talk to them, not at them, and just relay my experiences, whether that's now in, my home life and my lifestyle, or then on TV where it was, from the Grange Fair, or from a military fighter jet. So I'm still in the business of being a messenger and storyteller. So that has not changed.
But it is a little more personal. You are
Mhm.
including your kids in your stories. How do you make the decision when to include them, whether that you want to put them out there in the world?
I think it has to feel right. If it feels natural, I go with it. If it doesn't feel natural, I don't. I mean, I make that choice to put my kids out there, but I try to do it in a manner that shows them just being, not positioning, not propping, but just being. And I again, if it feels good to me and I feel like it feels inspirational or real. I mean, we all have families, no kids, either have kids or, are familiar with that sort of life. So that's real life. That's being human. So I do just try to make it feel as natural as possible. And when it makes sense, it makes sense. And when it doesn't make sense, it doesn't.
So let's you've kind of gone back full circle. You went,
Yeah.
from the blogger and now you're back to the social. So let's talk about how did it happen? How did you first start to do the social stuff, to get
So,
into the blogging, and what
yep.
inspired?
What inspired me was I lived in a 1.5 bedroom house with my family, and I had three siblings and obviously my parents. I was sharing a room with my sisters and constantly looking at four walls the size of a closet. I also loved fashion. I loved thrifting. I loved being resourceful. So my blogging journey started there because I think for myself, I needed to create possibilities in what I felt was like this like impossible situation, right? So I needed to look at my situation with an eye of potential. I had student loans up to my neck, but I always inspired to just have more and be more. So Polish for Pennies began where I was like trying to transform my room into like this high-end closet. Or I would go thrifting and find Chanel jackets or Chanel shirts. I'm wearing one right now. I've had this for years. Christian Dior blazers. I wanted to showcase to people the possibilities of not where they were, but the potential of where they could go with just being resourceful.
How long ago were we talking? And
This
what
is
were you doing?
I started probably when I was early 20s,
Was
early
it like after
20s.
college?
After no, it was actually during college too. So, man, I mean, I don't even know. I'm 36 now. So at least 12 years ago, maybe. Am I doing that right? Maybe no. I don't know. A long time ago,
Well,
Hadas. I
yeah,
don't even
that's
know
what
when it started. I have to look at my LinkedIn page.
oh, yeah. Well,
I'm like,
listen, that's
what
why
year
you're
did I put?
communications, not math, whatever.
No,
Um,
I don't look at me if you're looking for numbers. Let me go get my
um,
husband for that. That is not me.
So you started this idea, you started a website, knowing how to put
Yeah.
up a website was really important. I remember you showed it to me
Hmm.
when we were working in the same building. I
Yeah.
actually remember pulling it up and it
Yeah.
was so beautiful. Like you were doing things that people at the time didn't really know how to do. You had Instagram and you had like the Instagram feed on your
Yeah.
blog and it was really beautifully curated.
Thank you. I was so curious at that time. I mean, social media was so new. It's not like how it is now. Social media now, I just feel like is moving so fast. But before, we kind of had time to figure it out because it was new. And like I said, I was so curious. It just felt like this super creative space where I got to be like the editor of my own fashion magazine. And that was like a dream. Like I remember writing a letter to Philly Style magazine years and years ago telling them like how much I would just like die to work for them. So this allowed me to kind of start my own magazine and talk about fashion, talk about cooking, talk about my personal life and motivating people in transitions or just motivating people to be uniquely themselves. I got to talk about all those things and create my own fashion magazine. And I think that's what's cool about social media. When you have this idea, you can curate your own brand, if you will, and talk about all the things you love. So that's where it started. And then I
And then
stopped.
that's what got you to the next level, right? Just
Right.
putting yourself out there.
Oh, 100%. So I put myself out there and there was this website. It's still out. It's called harrow.com, helpareporterout.com. And there was a posting in there where a national lifestyle show was looking for guests. So I applied. I didn't know what show it was. And it turned out to be ABC's The Revolution with Tim Gunn. So Tim Gunn from Project Runway. And that was my big national debut. I went on and I talked about Polish for Pennies, my tagline, which was shop for what pops. It still is today. And when that happened, a news director in Philly saw what I did and she already knew who I was. I kind of, legally stalked her for a while to showcase and tell her that I could do more.
You made sure that happened. You made
Yeah,
sure that they knew who you were.
100%. And then I became the traffic reporter at Channel 3 and had an appetite for more. I felt like I had more to give. And a little bit after that, a few years after that, I created the sizzle reel with help, of course, from creative services for Taste with Tori. And that was inspired by my dad, who is a small business owner and an incredible musician, but nobody knows his backstory because he's only there, making and crafting these awnings and whatever. So I wanted to showcase people behind small businesses, lead with that. But then the product was sort of like the after effect of it. So then Taste with Tori took off. I became the feature reporter there and was doing all the human interest and fun and food and family and community. And it was just the best ride. And then here I am back again, talking about food, family, fun, and experiences and fashion in my own way.
What did you learn when you were at Channel 3 that you are using now today?
Pat Shiraki, a Philadelphia icon, gave me the best advice when storytelling and crafting, which was find the story in the story. So having that lens, a story can always look different. And my angle, the story in the story that I always tried to find was the feeling. I wanted to build connection. I wanted people to feel something and feel emotion. And looking at things through that lens is the same thing that I do now. When people look at the content that I create, my goal is to create a feeling and a connection. I think what's different between what I did in news was obviously the subject matter was different. I'm more of the subject matter now, but I still want to be relatable and create feeling and, exude positivity. But storytelling and how to craft a story was instrumental in what I'm doing right now. Also, like building the eye for visuals and setting up my camera and natural lighting. I mean, I worked with some of the best photographers and editors and professionals that, like, they were just the dopest. So the fact that I had that schooling was crazy, crazy valuable to what I do right now.
You have to put out your Instagram. You have to tell everybody because first of all, it's so beautiful.
Thank you.
It really looks like you curated for color. I don't know, it just everything really does look like you use a lot of primary colors. It
Mhm.
really jumps out at me. So first of all, your Instagram is
My Instagram is at Vittoria. Is it at Vittoria.Woodill or at Vittoria Woodill? And yeah, with my blog, my tagline was always shop for what pops. So that became part of my branding. And I think it's just how I see the world. So when I am creating content, I'm always looking for things that pop. And sometimes it can just be like subtle moments, but it's just like those sparks of whether color or feeling or emotion that I think helped build my brand. But again, it's just like, yeah, it's how you see the world. You start to develop that.
I just looked it up. It's
Oh,
Vittoria.Whittle,
yeah, I
but your
thought so.
name is Vittoria Whittle.
Okay,
So,
so my Instagram handle is at Vittoria.Woodill.
yeah,
Like, follow,
just
share.
like your name on the screen, right?
Yes,
Exactly.
just a period between the two.
Yes, yes. We put our, you know, screen names there here. So
I
just
should
follow
have done
that.
that. I didn't even think to do that.
Well,
Learning.
that's okay.
We're learning.
We learn as we go, right?
We're
Learn as
learning.
we go. Um, Now, technically, you also there's a lot of editing that goes on. Do you
Mhm.
have any tips or tricks with what you're doing to craft your story to literally edit it together into a video reel?
Yes. So I prefer to use CapCut. I think it is super easy to use. I have the pro version because the pro version has a lot of other features that allow you to, get really beautiful color and lighting, regulate it. As you know, Hadas, sometimes lighting, you're just like trying to find like the best angle. CapCut has some really great features for lighting that just make it look really beautiful. It's also really seamless. They have a full library of music. Everything can be done with your finger. They also have a desktop version. They have templates. I mean, if there was a certain video where I wanted to create a certain tone, like they have filters for that. And many platforms have that now, but I just prefer CapCut. CapCut. I think it's great.
And you're getting better and better, I guess. And the more you practice, the better you become, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, starting even with what you're starting, right? Like the best thing you can do is just start. But like every day I'm learning
Yes.
something.
Yes, let's say that again because I know there are some people that are watching that are there's always somebody behind you, no matter where you are in your journey, that wants to do what you're doing, that is interested in what you're
Mhm.
doing. So I love that. Let's say that again. Just start, right?
Just start. No, really, if I go back years and years ago, I was in the basement with my dad watching TV. And I'm like, Dad, how do you get there? And he's like, you'll figure it out. And it's funny, once I just started to pursue what was in my heart, when I started to just be curious and get into action to connect with people in that field, get closer to that field, It's really just amazing how things just start to fall into place. I mean, obviously a lot of hard work and persistence and determination, but starting is everything. And like it's
Yeah.
always so scary, right? Before you
Yes.
do it. Like I'm
Yes.
sure you had apprehension before doing this, and now you're in it.
Always.
And like Hadas, I'm looking at you now, like you are lit up inside.
Oh, so sweet. Well, yeah, let's talk about the importance of having that creative outlet because this is part
Yeah.
of what that is. For
Yeah.
you, I can see that it really feeds you. It's really important.
I'm a creative person and I'm not good working within a box. I have always thought outside the box. So being able to have this medium where I can work outside the box and explore the ideas and the creativity I have. I'm just so lucky because I mean, I don't know what I would be doing if I didn't have it. I mean, pottery class or art classes, like I'd have to be doing something to take what's in my head and translate it. But yeah, this creative medium is imperative to me personally as a creative. So I just feel so lucky for it.
Is this something that you are learning and doing, or is this, I'm going to get personal here, is this something you're able to make a living out of?
You can make a living out of it. I think I'm straddling this line of, you know, my son is home and I'm here with him, but also I'm trying to dive into social media. I think what is a big misconception is the amount of work and effort it takes to do social media. I mean, you have to be posting on your social media platforms at least 3 times a day. As a mom, I can't keep up with that. My kids get sick, or even just daily life, like the amount of Cheez Its, Cheerios, and Goldfish that I have to clean up constantly. I would say like posting 3 times a day is just unreasonable sometimes.
I I see you. I
Right?
see
Like,
you. I feel
come
you.
on.
Yeah,
Right?
I'm with
So,
you. Yep. I feel heard. I feel
right.
seen.
And like sometimes my kids don't go to bed till like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. And at that point, like I just want to watch Narcos. Or like I just want to watch Griselda. Or I want to like watch Selling Sunset. I want to just check out. I don't
Right.
want to be working. With being a mom, it is a full-time sun up, sundown, but not really just 24/7 job. So anyway,
Yep.
yes, I've monetized what I'm doing right now as a content creator, but I haven't jumped fully into the pool because I'm focusing on family too.
Of course.
But this is a season, right? My kids are really young. So I'm trying to actually like listen to other women too, of just like, I'm trying to be creative, do what I love, make a little bit of money, but also be there for my kids too, because this is where I am right now.
I've noticed that you have done something really interesting in that you started doing, I guess you've reached out to brands and you started doing giveaways, which is really interesting. I'm guessing that's not like a monetized thing, but a way to just get, I mean, maybe it is, I don't know, try to get some more interest. Can you talk to me about the steps you've taken there?
For sure. So the giveaways that I do that I've been doing, some of them are for trade, some of them aren't for anything. I do it because one, I think it's fun for my audience. I love getting free stuff. Like, yes, thank you, please. And two, it's a way to engage. Three, it also is a way to gain followers. And I think it builds good relationships business wise with brands that you love. So I just reached out to them, say, hey, I'd love to do a giveaway. Would you be interested in partnering? And some of that exchange was like, hey, for the exchange, I'll take some of your product. I'll create some beautiful content with it. And then can you give something away to my audience? The reception has been awesome. Pretty much every brand that I reached out to was like, totally, like, we're definitely down. It's mutually beneficial for brand awareness. It's mutually beneficial to create conversation in both communities. And it's also for brand association. I have some brands that I absolutely love. To be associated with them is so valuable to me. And I don't think that it's not valuable for them. I think my audience is just as valuable to them because that is their customer or potential customer. So I think it makes a lot of sense. And even if you're not being paid to do something, my husband said this the other day, and he's just like so brilliant. But he said to me, he's like, when you're not getting paid to do things, but still working in collaboration with others, you're networking. So those
Yeah.
relationships are valuable. It may not be monetarily right now, but that doesn't mean it couldn't be.
Right. And everybody can be their own brand.
I think everybody can be their own brand, but I think that what makes a brand successful is really what you put into it. I think authenticity is super important. I think my audience knows my values, and I try to be very verbal about that because I want them to trust me. And I actually, it's very much so like when I was at Channel 3. When I was at Channel 3, I knew the job that I had for them. And I knew that the trust that they needed to have in me. So that has never left me. I always kind of feel like this public servant, like I want to do good by you guys because it would really piss me off if someone if someone wasn't having that
Yeah.
sort of stake in me, you know?
Yeah. That trust
So
is
yeah.
so important. Yeah.
Yeah. So I
Um,
think anybody can be a brand, but I think to be a successful brand, and I'm not saying like I'm like uber successful, but what I'm saying is that I have a concentrated audience and I think it's built on trust and knowing that I want the same things for them that I hope they would want for me. And I think they feel that. I hope they feel that.
so what are your tactics? Like, what do you do? Do you reach out on social? And what do you like best? Do you like Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok,
So
YouTube, anything? What do you like?
I mean, considering how long-winded I can be, I should definitely be on YouTube. But my favorite social media platform is Instagram. It feels very whimsical and creative. It's not like, short tweets or not tweets. What is it now? X? What do you call them? X's? I don't even know. But that is one thing that Twitter I've never vibed with in that way. When I was in news, I vibed with it. It made sense. But now that I'm doing something more creative, Instagram has been my outlet. And actually, it was the platform that I started on. I started my blog on Tumblr, but I pushed to Instagram as soon as it was available. So Instagram is like my John.
Yeah, I remember you've always loved Instagram and you started with beautiful pictures. Now you're making beautiful videos.
Thank
And
you.
they're coming faster. Like, where are you finding the time? Tell us a little bit about your organization because I have noticed in the past couple of weeks you've been posting. You've been doing a lot of work.
I have. So I could be way better. Like I could use there are some post scheduling programs that I could use like Hootsuite or some other things, but I don't. I post everything very natural and organic as it comes to me every day. I'm not saying that's a good strategy. I'm just saying that's my strategy. Like I wake up today and it's a sunny morning and I'm like, "Oh, I feel compelled to post." As far as organizing, I've always tried to work within sort of like themes. So like February this month, I'm really like trying to exude a lot more love. So like the giveaways are like an extension of love. So when I get inspired, I could be shooting like 3 videos during my son's nap or like, trying to squeeze something in while my husband's getting the kids, ready. I can't say there's a lot of organization really, but I do a lot of my editing at night when my kids are asleep. And when it comes to shooting, I really don't plan anything out. It's just when I can have time. And I think any mom can relate to that. I got a boss downstairs that he's, less than 2 feet. And, he kind of dictates what my schedule looks like. So
Yeah.
he's really cute, but, we got to work around him. So yeah, I can't say I'm very organized. Do you find yourself an organized person, Hadas?
I try to be, but it does not. I mean, there's stuff that comes up that are, you can't just account for
Right.
sometimes. But
Yeah.
do you have like, let's say that you do a bunch of videos, do you schedule them out? Do you then like spread them out and put them on a schedule?
So I try to post something every Monday morning. I try to post something every Wednesday because I feel like it's that hump day and Friday. I would say like Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, there's usually a piece of content that's going to be new and out there. I don't know why. It's just like how it feels to me. And then I try to switch things up between, the new content that I'll post will either be a video or it will be like your static posts, like just photos. So every day I'm not posting a reel. I don't feel like that's not realistic for me. So I try to switch it up with some photos and I try to actually, use a post in photos to tease a video that I have coming up. So I try to make things make sense in that kind of way. But there's no real formula for me, but I would
Do you
say
take a photo while you're shooting so that you can use it
every
later?
so every video I take, I always create a set of photos because social media is all about constant content. So any opportunity that you're shooting something, you not only have an opportunity to create one piece of content around that, in the moment, you have the opportunity to create multiple pieces of content around that. So, because my time can be so limited with my kids, I never try to waste an opportunity to create more in that one moment. Even before we did this podcast, I shot a video with this outfit. And then when we're done recording, I'll probably take a couple videos or take a couple pictures to go with that, because then I got to go back to mom duty. So I think it's really smart when you're creating content, and sort of like my whole like point of view, like don't look at that time for what it is, but what it can be. So how do you maximize that time that you're shooting content? Think of not only the content that you're really inspired to create, but the other sort of pieces that can go with that and accompany that.
So, how do you learn about social media? Is this something that you're just navigating on your own, or do you have resources where you're learning like best practices?
I mean, I've definitely gone through a Google rabbit hole a couple of times trying to like, what are like your best post times and this and that, whatever. But I think what I have learned from that is like the best posting times for everyone else may not be your audience. So I think it's more so like I try to do a lot of insight investigation on my own channels. So, like analyzing my insights. Who's my audience? How old are they? The times that they're on, the most receptive times for my content, and I try to plan around that. But all of those categories of analytics are very important. But again, I feel like a lot of what I do is very natural. So I'm not saying for anybody to mimic what I do. This is just like what is working for me right now. But as far as best practices, I mean, there's so much information out there. I would say before you start focusing on the audience, I think it's most important, especially if you're starting, to really make sure that your content is what you want to put out to the world. Because sometimes you can put something out. It's like that song that like somebody made like 6 years ago, and then it popped up on TikTok, and it was like this blow up song like out of nowhere. So it's like I think it's like focus on the content first, you know? So it's like focus on what you love to do, and then the money will come, sort of thing. But I mean, yeah, of course, research can go a long way.
See, I've heard 2 different ways. I've heard people say, like, "Just start putting stuff out there and you'll see what people are interested in, you'll get the feedback, it'll be a back and forth loop, you'll see what you're good at." So, I've heard try things, and I've heard well, maybe that's the advice in the beginning, but I think you're like a you personally are a little further along. I mean, you know what you wanna do with it, you're pretty clear on it.
Well, I also think too, as much as I'm clear on the content that I want to create, I need to be aware of what trends are out there too. So it's like, well, how can I make that certain trend relative to my brand? So like the mob aesthetic, I mean, that is me 100. Okay. I have tons of faux furs and thrifted furs back in there, big black sunglasses. Like that mob aesthetic is me. So that is a trend, but I'm also, it's very relevant to my brand. So I'm adapting that in my own way. Right. So I
I saw
think you
that
can do both.
video, I saw it.
Yes. Yes. So you
It's
can do
really
both,
cute.
right? You create your original content, but then you also need to be in the space where everyone is. So taking those trending topics and those trending templates and adapting them to your brand is really important. It also exposes you in those trending areas to new
What are
audiences.
you looking at? Instagram or where are you looking at
Instagram,
other places?
TikTok. I think because TikTok is so hot right now, you've got to pull from TikTok.
Do you also post on TikTok?
Yes, I do post on TikTok. But some of the posting that I do on TikTok, you won't see on Instagram. But then some of the things I post on Instagram, you'll see on TikTok because, again, you need to feed the beast, right? So I'll have some original content on TikTok, but then I try to push my content to both platforms because you need to be constantly posting. So no content should be going to waste.
What do you get out of TikTok? Is it information? Is it the feedback? What is it that you get out of it? Like, is it like you can see what works and you can see what doesn't work? Or like why do you use it? Is it getting information?
TikTok for me is the only information that I want to get from TikTok is really what's trending, what are people doing right now that I need to be aware of. Especially in the social media space, like I need to know what things are trending because that's only going to help me in how I adapt my brand to, my audience and what's hot. But TikTok is one of those things where I feel like I'm definitely still learning. But it's also funny. I think TikTok can have a reputation of, You put out some random video and then all of a sudden that video could go viral in 2 seconds. Like, for example, I did a video showcasing a Chanel jacket that I thrifted for $10. I posted that video. I'm not thinking anything of it. I'm new on TikTok. I posted that video overnight. I had over like 52,000 views on it. So I think it's one of those things where you can definitely pop on there randomly more so than Instagram. That's the one difference, but also it's an exciting difference. But I also feel like it's like a slot machine a little bit. Like people say it's like
Yeah.
an algorithm, whatever. And I know it is. Everything's an algorithm. But I just feel like for my kind of content, I feel my audience is more concentrated on Instagram. Whereas
Yeah.
TikTok, it's like a flash mob and then it's like dead.
Right. Isn't it always so strange when it like you have to translate those numbers to people? Like, is this really the number? Like, if you took
It is
that
crazy.
those numbers of like you put them in a room like that, like it's hard to
It's
fathom. But
crazy.
in any media, it's that way. I can never really like grasp the numbers, whether it's one, whether it's 10,000, I don't know, a million. It's
Yeah.
hard to like
It's
grasp it.
hard. And I think I find two interesting parts of audience and your numbers when it comes to views. One, it's like, wow, the influence you have of people that are watching you and what are they taking in? I think that's incredible. I did a video on a super hug with one of my best friends. She taught me this hug. And it had over like 6,000 views. Like I'm not the influencer that has like 30,000 views and whatever. Not yet. I don't know. But I just thought how amazing that this positive transaction, this positive content had reached that many people. Even if not that many people, just more people, and maybe they viewed it more than once. I was just like, wow, that is so awesome. The downside is that sometimes you don't want to look at the numbers because you could be really, jacked about a piece of content that you're going to make. It might not get those numbers, but it shouldn't deter you from doing it. So I think like the numbers and all are great, but I try not to make it so much a numbers game for me because my goal in social media is really just to be relevant to the audience that I felt like maybe I left at Channel 3 in like traditional media, right?
Yeah.
I just want them to know like I'm still here. I'm not done yet. I don't know what next looks like, but like I'm still here.
Isn't it weird though? Because I've said this to you before. I obviously would watch, but I see you everywhere now because, like, I mean, we follow each other on social.
Yeah.
But what is your take on where everything is coming from, where people's attention is going? Whether because I see all kinds of things that you do, whereas on TV I might have seen you. I don't know. It feels like less, but maybe not.
No, I mean, without a doubt, you saw me less on traditional TV for sure, because I sometimes might have been only on 3 days a week. And the times that I were on, it was like maybe 2 or 3 minutes, sometimes 4 minutes total in a newscast. So, I mean, it's way different. Social media, I can be on every single day. I could have my own show on YouTube. I could, post as long or as short as I want. And when you start to post constantly, your audience sees you more. They feel like they know you more. I mean, I felt so blessed. I felt like people had a sense of knowing me on TV, but now they can visit me all the time. Traditional media, that you have to go on the website and then you have to like, either look it up through YouTube or whatever. Here you can just go to my social channel and we can hang out all day
Right? You could do that on demand whenever you want.
whenever you want. And the playback,
Right.
sometimes you would just see me in a live shot in traditional news, and that might not have been posted online because it was live.
Right.
So, I mean, yeah, it's amazing how much I think if you're a talent or someone in media, how much your time and space opens up on social media that you would have never had in traditional media, for sure.
What is your favorite way to communicate? And I'm not talking about just posting videos. I'm talking about is there a feedback loop that you get with your audience? Do you respond to comments? Do you like to reach out to other people and respond on their pages? Like, how do you communicate with the people that you're connecting with online?
I think social media is about connection. So I am replying to comments. I try to do polls. Recently, I did a video. I had a bookcase that I was redoing. So I was asking people for their comments. I am not responding to every single one. Sometimes I'll get in a flurry where I feel like I am and I'm doing it. But I think letting people know they're heard is important. Sometimes Facebook, if I'm on Facebook, there could be like hundreds and hundreds of comments on something. Most likely, I won't be getting to every single one of them, but I'll be responding to some of them. Sometimes I'll just make a generic like thank you post because there's, a lot of people that are commenting and I'm just really appreciative of that. But I think instead of replying to every single comment, which I think is very important, not all of them, but most of them, like your community wants to feel you. They want a piece of connection with you. And I think that's important to respond. I also think it's important, like even communicating with other creators, like, yo, I love what you're doing. This is cool. Sharing that because it's all working together.
Yeah. Do you find that when you respond to somebody that they're surprised? Like, "Oh my gosh,
Yes,
you're a real
I do.
person."
I
What
do.
kind of
Which goes
responses
to
do
like
you
how
get?
important it is. It's like, I still see people at the supermarket and they're like, oh my God, it's Tori from Taste with Tori. Like, and I love feeling that sense of appreciation. Also, I'm like, oh my God, like somebody was watching. Like,
Right?
great, because I loved what I did. Like, I hope you were feeling that. But yeah, but I feel it too. Like, I've reached out to people on social media and like could not believe that they responded. I'm like, this is like the coolest. I feel like just as people, we all just get that feeling of just like, wow, like you saw me. That's
Right.
big.
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. What do you like and dislike more now than what you were doing in traditional media?
So when it comes to dislike, I miss the collaboration. I was so fortunate to work with the best photographers, the best editors, in these the best producers. I miss that collaboration. I really aspired to do that again one day. But everything's changing. Now, in traditional news as well, you are a one-man band. You're
Right.
not
Yeah.
having the same access that you did. You're shooting your own stuff, you're editing your own stuff, you're setting up your own stories, which I think is such a shame because we learn from others.
Or this is the craziest thing because I see that happening in TV, right? So I see it going from like a team to a one-man band in TV, and then on social media, I see it going from like one person in front of the camera to like there are channels that get really big and then they hire a team. So that's getting bigger while traditional looks like it's getting smaller. Like I don't know, I'm no expert, but just what I'm noticing. What do you see?
I mean, I feel like before social media, television never had competition.
Right.
TV was TV, like in the basement on the box TV. I'm watching the TV. There was nothing else to watch.
Three channels,
Right.
right?
I'm like, click, 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 click. Like, who am I watching today? And I'm glued. How do you get in that
Right.
box? Now we all have a camera in our pocket. Now we all have editing software. Now we've realized that you don't need that to become a media personality. You basically have your own program. I like to think that the content that I create is an extension of my own program. It's my own channel. That's why it's like a social media channel, right? Like this
Right.
is this is the blessing of social media. I do think though the downside is again working in these gigantic production houses, especially coming from someone in that traditional space and then now outside of it. These people were just artists. And I don't want to be that artist all the time. I don't want to be the producer, the this and that, whatever. Like I had a great conversation with a mentor of mine, and she said to me, Tor, I'm not the accountant. I'm good at my job, and I want to do my job. And I thought to myself, whoa, mind blown. That's me.
Right.
I want to do my job, but there are other people that do the extensions of my work better than me. And I want
Yeah.
the best, right? So I think
Right.
that that's
Hire the
the
best people, right? That's
oh,
everything that I've seen in business. You want to go with people that know more than you do. That's being a good
right.
business person.
Absolutely.
Um, let's go back to something you mentioned, which is a mentor. How important is having a mentor, and how do you find your mentors?
I think having a mentor is imperative because you need someone to see in you what you see in yourself. I think that having self confidence can go a really long way, but if you're not surrounding people that see in you what you see in yourself, it can be harder to get where you have to go. I think you find mentors by feeling who you gravitate towards. I have reached out to people on Instagram that I'm like, this girl is cool. I want to be around her. Or, this person's aesthetics amazing. I want to reach out to her and just see what she's doing. I reached out to an interior designer who I have met a few times before, where her energy was just like so beautiful. And I'm like, can I just like come to your office and just like see where you create? And she was like, yeah. So I went over there and I'm like, I just needed to feel this energy because I aspire to surround myself with the things that you're decorating with. Like, so
So you learned from that experience.
100%.
You're picking up like this idea and that idea.
And not only picking up ideas, you leave feeling inspired and you leave feeling hopeful. If you're around people that aren't showing you the possibilities of life, then what possibilities are you won't be able to see how far you can go.
Let's talk about that feeling because it's a great thing to use as a guide. How people make you feel, who you should be around, are you on the right path? How does that guide you?
So I've always felt different. I always felt like I never tried to do what everybody else was doing. And that came with a price. And that came with being a little lonelier in my life, right? So I had to go where it felt good because when things don't feel good, that feeling is very strong. And I didn't want
Yeah.
that energy in my life, right? So I had to gravitate towards larger opportunities that felt more aligned with where I wanted to go. But, and I say this a lot in my content too, I feel like our journey is to continue to choose ourselves every single day. And that means choosing who you surround yourself with, choosing the opportunities you are, exposed to, choosing where you are in every single moment that aligns with who you are, because the journey is to just be yourself and accept it and love it, right? So I feel like in my journey, although it felt lonely, if I led with my heart, I always landed in the presence of people that actually saw in me what I saw in myself. And it also, I put myself out there. I made it very verbal that, like, I don't want to do that. I want to do this. And I just need to find that right audience. I need to find that right person that sees that sees that value.
How do you redirect when something doesn't feel right for you? Whether it's an experience, a job, a friend, anything.
I think it's taking a step back and looking at it from a perspective. If I like, what are the positives that I can take from this relationship, but also recognizing where it's not getting me? So, like, career wise, for example, if it doesn't feel right, if it feels like a drag, it's a drag. And if you don't want to live like that, then you need to see, okay, let me take a step back. What can I take with me from this experience that's going to make me better? And let's look outward and then leave this behind. I
Yeah.
have been at places where I'm like, I'm not happy, but all I have is what I can create. So, what can I create here? How can I make this situation work? But eventually leave it behind because this isn't where I want to be.
That takes courage, which
It does.
is amazing. Yeah. I mean, it's a testament to you to be able to redirect quickly.
Well, quickly is a strong word.
We'll have the courage to find another path.
Yeah. And I think that comes with, I don't want to compromise my happiness. I have to live with me for the rest of my life. And I want to be happy. And I want to do things that make me feel like I'm living. And when I do the things I love, I feel like I'm living. So if I'm not living in love, then I got to let it go and move on, as terrifying as that is. I had a conversation not long ago where a woman asked me, what would you tell your 13-year-old self? And I thought about myself at 13, and I was in a state of transition. I wasn't happy in the friend groups that I was in. I was feeling lonely, and I needed to let it go and go forward and find a new group, find a new path, find a place that made me happy. And I did. And it's funny, I'm in a position right now in this transition of I need to take what makes me happy and I need to move forward and have that same hope and know that from experience, the things you leave behind are meant to be left behind unless it comes back to you. If it doesn't come back to you, it's not for you. And if it's not for you, then, like, I mean, you just have to be truthful to yourself.
Let it go. From where do you find inspiration?
People. I find a lot of inspiration from people. You know what's ridiculous? This might sound ridiculous. I find a lot of inspiration too from sunlight, looking out my window, feeling that peace and feeling how it touches things and moves in a room. I really find inspiration in a lot of different places. But I think the most inspiration that I find is in people because that's who I feel most connected with. And when I work with people, I feel the most alive.
It's interesting because you're saying that when you go to people that you reach out to them and you leave feeling inspired. It always feels good to feel like, "Oh my gosh, I have all these ideas now." I
Yeah.
feel like there's something really magical about working within the realm of creativity.
Yeah.
Being creative is just good for your soul. It feeds your soul. It makes you motivated. How do you get to that place of feeling inspired and motivated when you have to push yourself? Or are there times where you just have to push yourself?
Yeah. Absolutely. I think too, with being a mom, you have to push yourself out of the house sometimes, give yourself the permission to go outside of the house to feel motivated and inspired. Right.
Yeah.
And I've had to do that.
Go to the store for 15 minutes,
Oh my
like just
gosh,
because,
right. Walk the
right?
produce aisle, smell an orange. Whatever you got to do. But no, I mean, I've had to
Yeah.
push myself a lot during this transition. Push myself to be brave enough to put content out there. Push myself to be brave enough to reach out to different people and ask for advice. What has their transitions looked like? What have they done? And I think it's important to do that because this journey is not meant to be lived alone. Even though I'm on social media and it feels like I'm this individual, yeah, the inspiration I pull is from others. I do a lot of like motivational content on there. And every piece of content, motivational content that I put out there is a conversation that I've had with someone else that I just feel like you need to hear this too because it helped me. If it can help me, it can help you.
What's some of the best advice that you've received recently?
The best advice that I have received recently has to do with career transition and motherhood. And it's been this focus that wisdom comes with a price. I left something behind that I really loved, and that was my choice. I love being a mom, but I'm also learning a lot about being a full time, a stay at home mom and sort of like what I left behind too. But I'm glad that I'm enriching my experience, my human experience, learning about being a stay at home mom because I didn't have that knowledge before. I didn't have that understanding before. But that wisdom comes at a price because you got to learn it. I'm
Yeah.
learning. I'm learning
How
being at home.
how does the mom life influence your content and make you a better person?
I mean, it influences my content because I'm like, if this is messy for me, this has got to be messy for you. Like, if you're looking for the content creator where it's like navy and white and like a perfect coastal designed house and, everything like that is not me. Like, that is not me.
You're you have such it's so beautiful. Like I see your beautiful kitchen and your beautiful living room that you are very honest with your audience about what you're doing and how you're moving your couch and how you put your
Yeah.
sconces up. I love that. But you also have this just beautiful aesthetic. I gotta say, like
Thank
it
you.
is so beautiful. Yeah.
Well, and I think that my focus is the beauty in everyday life. Like a lot of what I shoot around my house, regardless of decor, is sunlight coming through or like small moments in life that are beautiful. I did a video of me eating Lucky Charms one day. First of all, I mean, if you haven't had Lucky Charms recently, go and eat them because it's a delight. I did a video of
All
myself.
the kids' cereals.
Right?
Yes.
Like, so I did a video of me like eating Lucky Charms one day, and everyone was like vibing it. But I shot it in the sunlight, in this peacefulness,
Mm,
in the 5 minutes that I had outside of motherhood to sit down and have a bowl of cereal. So,
yeah.
like, I try to focus on simple, beautiful moments in the messiness of reality.
You're leaning into gratitude
I
also.
feel like you have to,
Yeah.
or you'll be miserable.
I
Right? I mean,
yeah.
you'll be straight up miserable if you're not leaning into gratitude. Like there's
Yeah.
always something to take with you, you know?
Yep. It's really interesting because like when I see you, when I see other people, I feel like anything they put on social media, it's like however you are, like that is enhanced. Like
Mm,
you are a happy creative person, that is enhanced. Like that comes out. There's
thanks.
some things that I see on Twitter where feels the opposite and that is enhanced as well.
I mean, and that's and you know,
Is it the person or the medium that makes things a certain way?
it's the person. It's the person. It is. And I'm going to tell you why. Because we're
Yeah,
people. We gravitate to people that speak our language. We gravitate to people who are like us. We gravitate to people who are not like us because there's probably a little bit that wishes we were like them or had what they
right,
had or whatever. I mean, mediums for sure, but like, who are you looking at on those mediums? There's also like
right.
this like scientific, sort of piece of information where people just like to watch people talk. That's why on TikTok, if you look at the videos that you're watching and consuming and or you're so engaged with, it's literally a person like this just talking and you're watching their mouth move.
Well, I think
Like,
people are drawn to other people. Like they like to see faces instead of
without a doubt.
things.
We're
Yeah,
looking at what you look like. We're looking at your hair. We're looking at your eyebrows. We're looking at the way your face is moving when you say something or your mouth. Like, we're people.
right.
Like people,
Yeah.
I mean, we're just interested in each other. We're also a little annoyed by everybody else because they're not like us. But we're still watching you and we like you. Like it's this funny thing. Like, we're just a society of people.
Yeah. So, Tori, where do you wanna go from here? What's the goal?
I think the goal for me right now is to figure out what the goal is.
That's a
Yeah.
good point to be.
Yeah, like I just feel like my boots are in this muddy motherhood, this magical mess of motherhood, and I don't necessarily want to get out of the mud. Like I kind of like it here, right? But I
Yeah.
also, right? Like
I gotta say though, it's really nice that you were able to change your life around so that you can appreciate this season of your life.
yeah, and I mean, it didn't come with a learning curve.
Yeah.
I never aspired to be a stay-at-home mom. I never aspired to be in the news. And both of those transitions had you're thrown in the trenches. But I've liked where I've been thrown and I've never had a plan. I've never had a goal. So that's why I'm trying to just stay in my own feet, work on things that I love, and also see what comes to me because I like being with my kids right now too. But I also like being creative on Instagram. So I don't know where the next step is. I probably should figure that out. I've never, my
You
husband's a
don't have
planner.
to.
I've never been a planner. So, I mean, I need to get better.
The planner meets the whimsical,
Oh my
you know,
goodness. Yes. Yeah,
that's a sitcom in itself.
it is.
How do you feel? I know everybody has this a different way that they know how to do this, but how do you know when it's time to make a change? Is there a clue that you get or something that happens to you, a feeling perhaps when you
Yeah.
know, all right, I need to change the situation?
Yeah. There is a nagging truth that you do not want to face inside of you. And once that nagging becomes so powerful, you have to get into action. I've always been one that has believed following your heart is everything. You can try to change your mind in your head a million times over, but there is something in you. You feel it. You just feel when you're meant to move on. You just feel when something's not right. And I think if you're brave enough to look at the truth in that and accept the truth in that, that is really where you start to move into the best seasons of your life. Even though those transitions can be muddy and hard and confusing, whatever, if you're honoring what is closest to your heart and the things that you desire and want, and be bold to say, I want those things, I don't want this, and this isn't good enough. There has to be something better, and I want better. If you honor those needs and wants that you have, I feel like you will be opened up to the best version of yourself that you're meant to be.
What are you inspired by today?
Today I woke up and I saw the sun come in with my coffee. And I was inspired by that because it was light and bright because my daughter just had the stomach bug last night. So so I needed to feel a little bit of peace and that inspired me. but honestly, this conversation too. I mean, I'm saying all this, but I'm also like in my head, like, there's so much work that I still want to do. And
Yeah.
I don't know what it looks like. I don't know after this conversation how I'm going to do it, but I'm just going to keep putting one foot in front of the other and just do what comes natural, feels good, and move on.
Yeah.
But
Just gonna say one step at a time.
that's
One
it.
step at a
One
time.
step at a
Yeah.
time, one day at a time, small wins, you know.
Yeah.
Sometimes just a
Uh,
good day at home is a small win.
well, I love talking to you because you're so inspirational. You're so positive, and everybody can see that on your Instagram, Vittoria.Woodill. It's beautiful. Everyone should check. I'll put
Thank
the
you.
link in the I'll put it in there if people don't know how to spell it in the description. So anyway, I just love calling you my friend. How lucky
Yes.
am I that you are my friend, that we can connect like this. It's so fun. And every time I talk to you off social, I do always feel so inspired because you're so creative. I think creativity really breeds inspiration.
Thank you. Thank you. I always have our last time and this time Hadas has still left me inspired and feeling so much joy and just connecting with you, and I think it's fabulous what you're doing. So, I just love you as a person, and I think this new creative journey for you is, I mean, like I said before, you are lit up inside. So, you know what you're doing right now is feeling right, and I just applaud you for that and for taking this
Oh,
chance.
thank you.
It's awesome. Thank you for letting me be a part of it.
I appreciate it. Thank you for joining me, Vittoria Woodill.
Thank
Thank you so
you.
much.
Thank you,
And
Doc.
follow Tori on Instagram and TikTok too.
TikTok at Vittoria Woodill, no period there. So period on TikTok between Vittoria and Woodill, and then, or sorry, period between Vittoria and Woodill on Instagram, no period on TikTok.
Just type her name in. It'll come up. It'll
Yeah,
come
I
up.
know. I mean, you know how to get there.
Yeah. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.